What if everything you believe about life is wrong? What if God exists, but not the way religion describes him? And what if God doesn't exist at all, but religion still shaped the world more than truth ever did, for thousands of years? Humanity has asked the same question in different ways. Why are we here? Some say there is no higher power. Some say God chose one people. Some say God became human to save the world. Atheist, Jew, Christian. 3 worldviews. 3 radically different answers. And yet, all of them are searching for meaning, morality, and truth. This video is not about mocking belief. It's not about proving who is right in 10 minutes. It's about understanding how each worldview sees reality, why billions follow them, and what they get right and wrong about the human condition. Stay till the end, because the final question may challenge your beliefs more than you expect. Every worldview begins with a foundation. Before morality, before heaven or hell, before commandments or science, there is one essential question: what is real? How we answer that question shapes everything else we believe about life, purpose, and identity. Atheism begins with the physical universe. Reality, according to atheism, is limited to what exists naturally: matter, energy, space, time. These are the building blocks of existence. Nothing exists beyond the universe itself. There is no invisible realm guiding events from above, no divine intelligence shaping history, and no supernatural meaning behind suffering or success. Truth, in this worldview, must be verifiable. If something cannot be tested, measured, or observed, it cannot be confidently called true. This does not mean atheists claim to know everything. It means they are cautious about claiming certainty where evidence is absent. For many atheists, this worldview feels intellectually honest. It refuses to fill gaps in knowledge with God. When we don't know something, the answer is not faith. It is further inquiry. Lightning is not divine anger. Disease is not divine punishment. These are natural phenomena with natural explanations. However, this worldview also carries weight. If reality has no built-in purpose, then meaning is not discovered. It is created. Humans must decide what matters, what is right, and why life is worth living. Some find this empowering, others find it unsettling. The atheist worldview often leads to a strong sense of responsibility. There is no higher power to fix mistakes, no divine plan guaranteeing justice. If the world is to become better, humans must make it so. Judaism sees reality as deeply personal and purposeful. The universe is not random. It is created intentionally by one eternal God. This God does not merely start the universe and step away. He remains involved in history, human behavior, and moral accountability. Reality in Judaism is structured around covenant. God enters into a binding relationship with humanity, and more specifically with the Jewish people. This covenant is not just belief, it is obligation. Laws, commandments, rituals, and ethics are not optional. They are the fabric of reality itself. In this worldview, truth is not abstract philosophy, truth is action. To live truthfully means to live in accordance with God's commandments. Justice, charity, humility, and obedience are expressions of reality as God intended it. Judaism emphasizes this world over the next life. Here matters deeply how one treats others, how one honors God through daily actions. These define reality more than speculation about heaven. Yet this worldview also carries tension. If God is involved in history, how do we explain suffering? Why do righteous people suffer? Jewish tradition does not offer simple answers. Instead, it allows struggle, debate, and even questioning God as part of faith. Christianity shares Judaism's belief in a purposeful, created universe, but introduces a radical shift. Reality is not only shaped by God, God enters reality himself. In Christianity, the universe is broken, not merely flawed but fractured by sin. Human beings are not just imperfect, they are separated from God. Reality is therefore a story of fall and redemption. The most controversial Christian claim is that truth is not merely spoken by God, It is embodied. Jesus Christ is not only a teacher or prophet, but the living expression of divine truth. This means reality is relational. Knowing truth is not just about obeying laws or understanding facts. It is about relationship with God through Christ. Love, sacrifice, and forgiveness are not ideals. They are the structure of reality itself. For believers, this makes suffering meaningful. Pain is not random. It is something God enters into and transforms. For critics, it raises deep philosophical challenges. Few questions shape human thought more than this one. Does God exist? And if so, what kind of being is he? Atheism argues that God is a concept created by human psychology and culture. Throughout history, different civilizations have imagined different gods. This diversity suggests invention rather than revelation. From this view, God explains fear of death, chaos, and uncertainty. Religion offers comfort, structure, and meaning in an unpredictable world. But comfort does not equal truth. Atheists point to contradictions between religious texts, moral problems in Scripture, and the lack of empirical evidence as reasons to reject belief in God. Yet atheism does not claim certainty about everything. Many atheists describe themselves as open to evidence. If God could be demonstrated, belief would follow. Until then, disbelief is the most honest position. Judaism insists on radical monotheism. God is one, indivisible, eternal, and beyond full human comprehension. God does not take human form. God does not change. God reveals his will through prophets and commandments, not incarnation. This preserves divine transcendence. God remains wholly other, above nature and time. However, God is also close. He listens, he judges, he remembers. God enters covenants and holds humanity accountable. This creates a faith built on obedience rather than belief alone. One does not need to fully understand God to follow his commandments. Christianity presents a paradox. God is transcendent and immanent, eternal and temporal, almighty and vulnerable. The doctrine of the Trinity claims that God exists as Father, Son, and Spirit. This is not three gods, but one essence expressed relationally. Jesus, in Christian belief, is God in human form. This challenges classical ideas of divine distance. God does not merely command from above. He suffers, loves, and dies. For believers, this makes God deeply personal. For critics, it raises logical questions that have been debated for centuries. Morality is where belief meets daily life. Atheists argue morality arises from empathy, reason, and social evolution. Humans survive by cooperation. Harmful behavior damages societies. Compassionate behavior strengthens them. Morality is flexible, evolving with knowledge and context. Slavery was once accepted. Now it is condemned. Progress occurs without divine command. Critics ask whether morality without God is subjective. Supporters argue that human well-being is a sufficient moral foundation. In Judaism, morality is commanded. Right and wrong are not voted on. They are revealed. The Torah provides ethical structure. Justice is central. Care for the poor, the stranger, and the vulnerable is not optional. It is divine law. Christian morality centers on love, love of God, love of neighbor, love of enemy. Jesus raises morality beyond law to intention. Anger matters. Forgiveness matters. Sacrifice matters. This ideal is powerful, but difficult to live out. Few questions test belief more than suffering, war, disease, injustice, the death of children. These realities force every worldview to answer the same brutal question. If the world is meant to be good, why does so much hurt exist? In atheism, suffering has no cosmic explanation. It is not punishment. It is not a test. It is not part of a divine plan. It simply happens. Pain exists because nature is indifferent. Earthquakes do not choose victims. Cancer does not judge morality. Evolution rewards survival, not fairness. From this perspective, the universe does not care whether humans suffer. It has no intention at all. For many atheists, this explanation feels honest. Even if it is emotionally hard, there is no need to justify suffering. as meaningful or necessary. Calling suffering what it is, tragic and unjust, can feel morally clearer than explaining it away. However, this view also removes ultimate comfort. There is no promise that suffering will be redeemed, no guarantee that injustice will be corrected beyond human action. Meaning must be created despite suffering, not because of it. This often leads atheists to focus strongly on reducing suffering here and now. If this life is all we have, then compassion, medicine, social reform, and justice become urgent moral duties. Judaism does not give one simple answer to suffering, and that is intentional. Jewish tradition allows struggle, protest, and even argument with God. In the Hebrew Bible, suffering appears for many reasons. Sometimes it is linked to consequences of actions. Sometimes it is portrayed as a test. Other times it is presented as a mystery with no clear explanation at all. The book of Job is central here. Job suffers terribly despite being righteous. His friends try to explain his pain as punishment, but God ultimately rejects their certainty. The message is clear. Human beings do not always understand why suffering happens. Judaism emphasizes responsibility over explanation. Instead of asking endlessly why suffering exists, it asks what should be done about it. The moral response to suffering is justice, charity, and repair of the world. Tikkun Olam, God is not absent, but neither is he fully predictable. Faith includes living with unanswered questions. Christianity places suffering at the center of its theology. The crucifixion of Jesus is not an accident, it is the core symbol of the faith. Christians believe God does not merely observe suffering from a distance. He enters into it. God experiences pain, betrayal, humiliation, and death. This transforms the meaning of suffering. Pain is not proof that God does not care. It becomes a place where God is present. Suffering is still evil, but it is not meaningless. Christians believe suffering can lead to transformation, humility, compassion, and ultimately redemption. Critics argue this risks glorifying pain. Supporters argue it gives hope where logic fails. Death is the one certainty no worldview escapes. How each system responds reveals its deepest values. For atheists, death is the end of consciousness. No soul leaves the body. No heaven waits beyond the grave. This belief can feel frightening or freeing. Without an afterlife, life becomes precious. Every moment matters. Love, creativity, and memory gain urgency because they are temporary. Legacy replaces eternity. One lives on through impact, influence, and the people left behind. However, the absence of ultimate justice troubles many. What about unpunished evil? What about lives cut short? Atheism offers no cosmic correction, only human memory. Judaism focuses far less on the afterlife than most religions. The emphasis is on living righteously now, while Jewish thought includes ideas about the world to come, resurrection, and divine judgment. These concepts are intentionally left vague. Speculation is discouraged. What matters most is how one lives, not what reward follows. Few questions shape the human experience more powerfully than identity. Every person, whether religious or not, asks the same silent questions at some point in life. Who am I? Why do I exist? Where do I belong? The answers we give to these questions influence our confidence, our fears, our values, and even how we treat others. Atheism, Judaism, and Christianity offer very different frameworks for understanding identity and community, and each comes with its own strengths and challenges. In atheism, identity begins with the individual. There is no divine blueprint, no pre-assigned role written by God. You are not created for a specific spiritual purpose. Instead, you are free to define yourself. For many atheists, this is deeply empowering. Identity becomes an act of choice rather than inheritance. A person is not bound by sacred traditions, religious laws, or ancient stories. One's identity can change as knowledge grows and circumstances evolve. This worldview often values authenticity. You are encouraged to be honest with yourself, to reject labels that feel imposed, and to live according to reason and personal conscience. Community in this sense is voluntary. You belong where you feel understood, respected, and free. However, this freedom can also feel fragile. Without shared sacred narratives, identity may rely heavily on career, relationships, or ideology. When these change or fail, a sense of belonging can collapse. Many atheists report periods of isolation, not because atheism demands loneliness, but because meaning must be constantly rebuilt. Community in atheism is often based on shared values rather than shared destiny. People gather around causes, human rights, science, art, justice. But these bonds may not carry the same sense of eternal commitment found in religious traditions. Judaism offers one of the most distinctive models of identity in human history. To be Jewish is not merely to believe certain doctrines. It is to belong to a people with a shared past, law, and memory. Jewish identity is deeply communal. It is inherited, lived, and remembered. Even Jews who do not believe in God often identify strongly as Jewish, because Judaism is as much cultural and historical as it is religious. In this worldview, identity is not self-invented, it is received. You are born into a story that began thousands of years ago: the Exodus, the covenant, exile, survival. These are not abstract myths, but collective memories, shaping who you are. Community in Judaism is not optional. Responsibility extends beyond the self to the group. Individual actions reflect on the community as a whole. This creates strong bonds, resilience, and continuity, especially in the face of persecution and diaspora. However, this collective identity can feel heavy. The weight of history, law, and expectation may feel overwhelming to some. Questions about who belongs, how tradition adapts, and how to balance modern life with ancient law are ongoing struggles within Jewish communities. Yet Judaism does not demand uniform belief. Debate, disagreement, and questioning are part of the tradition. Identity is preserved not through sameness, but through shared commitment to memory and ethical responsibility. Christianity frames identity through relationship rather than ancestry or autonomy. A Christian's primary identity is not nationality, race, or social status. It is belonging to Christ. In this worldview, identity is transformed, not constructed. A person may come from any background, but through faith, they become part of a spiritual family that transcends borders and cultures. This creates a powerful sense of belonging. Christianity offers the promise that no one is too broken, too sinful, or too distant to belong. Identity is rooted not in achievement, but in grace. Community in Christianity is meant to reflect this belief. Churches function as spiritual families where care, forgiveness, and mutual responsibility are emphasized. Ideally, no one stands alone. However, this ideal often clashes with reality. Churches are made of imperfect people. Exclusion, hypocrisy, and division have damaged trust and belonging in many Christian communities. Still, the Christian concept of identity offers something rare: worth that does not depend on success. Identity is not earned, it is received. Atheism prioritizes personal freedom, but risks isolation. Judaism prioritizes collective identity, but demands responsibility. Christianity prioritizes spiritual belonging, but depends heavily on lived compassion. Each worldview answers the same question differently. Atheism says, you belong where you choose. Judaism says, you belong to a people and a story. Christianity says, you belong because you are loved. None of these answers are shallow. Each reflects deep human needs, for freedom, for continuity, and for unconditional belonging. Perhaps the reason identity matters so much is because humans are not meant to exist alone. Whether through chosen communities, inherited traditions, or spiritual families, we search for connection. The question is not only who am I, it is who will walk with me through suffering, doubt, and death. And every worldview must answer that. Honestly, death is mourned deeply. Honestly, without pretending it is not painful. Jewish mourning rituals allow grief without denying hope. Christianity places the afterlife at the center. Death is not the end. it is a passage. Resurrection is key. Just as Jesus rose from the dead, believers expect new life beyond death. This belief offers comfort, especially in suffering. Death does not have the final word. However, it also raises questions about belief and exclusion. Who is saved? On what basis? Belief is never just personal, it is profoundly historical. The ideas we hold about God, morality, and existence ripple through generations, shaping laws, cultures, wars, and innovations. To understand atheism, Judaism, and Christianity is also to understand how billions of people across millennia have acted, built, destroyed, and healed in their name. Although often associated with modernity, atheism has roots stretching back to early philosophers who questioned divine authority. Figures like Epicurus in ancient Greece emphasized understanding the world through observation, rather than divine decree. Over centuries, atheistic or secular thought challenged unquestioned religious authority, planting seeds for the scientific revolution, democracy, and the separation of church and state. Atheism's historical impact is most visible in the development of science, medicine, and rational governance. By insisting that human reason and evidence, rather than tradition or scripture, should guide decisions, atheistic or secular frameworks enabled technological revolutions that transform societies. Vaccines, electricity, space exploration, and modern medicine all reflect a worldview that values inquiry over faith in the supernatural. Yet atheism has also faced conflict. Movements rooted in secularism sometimes clashed with religious traditions, especially when political power or cultural identity was at stake. History reminds us that ideas about God, or the rejection of God, can be just as polarizing as belief itself. Judaism's historical impact is remarkable, particularly given its size. Though the Jewish population has never been large relative to the world, its influence on ethics, law, and philosophy is profound. Concepts such as justice, equality before God, and the moral responsibility to care for the vulnerable have shaped countless societies. Judaism preserved written law and moral teachings during periods when many civilizations relied primarily on oral tradition or brute force. The Torah, Talmud, and rabbinical commentaries influenced not only Jewish communities, but also early Christian thought, Islamic law, and broader Western ethical frameworks. Jewish history also exemplifies resilience. Through exile, persecution, and diaspora, Jewish identity persisted, keeping moral and spiritual traditions alive across continents. This continuity has allowed Jewish ideas to impact law, social justice, literature, and politics far beyond the community itself. Christianity has arguably had the most visible historical footprint, shaping empires, laws, art, and culture across millennia. From its beginnings as a persecuted sect in the Roman Empire to becoming the state religion, Christianity influenced governance, education, and social systems throughout Europe, Africa, the Americas, and Asia. Christianity's emphasis on compassion, charity, and forgiveness inspired hospitals, schools, and universities. The Christian doctrine of the inherent worth of each individual helped shape modern concepts of human rights, abolitionism, and social welfare. Art, music, and literature in the Western world have been profoundly shaped by Christian themes and narratives. However, history also records darker chapters. Crusades, inquisitions, and colonial endeavors show that even faith can be misused for power, wealth, and control. Christianity's influence is therefore a mixture of transformative good and cautionary lessons about institutional power. Each worldview, atheism, Judaism, Christianity, demonstrates that ideas matter as much as armies or governments. Beliefs shape laws, moral expectations, social movements, and human creativity. They guide decisions about who lives, who dies, who is free, and who is enslaved. They inspire revolutions, scientific discovery, and profound works of art. History also teaches humility. No belief system has ever produced only good, or only harm? Atheism brought progress, but could foster nihilism. Judaism offered moral clarity but also struggled under persecution. Christianity spread compassion and charity but was sometimes co-opted by politics. Ultimately, the historical impact of these worldviews is a mirror reflecting humanity's capacity for both greatness and error. Understanding this history is not about scoring points in a debate. It is about recognizing the immense power of ideas to shape life on earth. After exploring reality, God, morality, suffering, death, identity, and history, we arrive at the deepest question. Why do humans keep searching for meaning at all? Across all cultures, eras, and belief systems, this question persists. It is the silent pulse behind every prayer, every scientific experiment, every act of courage or creativity. Atheists, Jews, and Christians all confront life's mysteries, but each interprets the search differently. For atheists, the search is internal. Meaning is not discovered in the heavens but crafted through relationships, achievements, and contributions. Life is precious precisely because it is finite, and humans instinctively seek to make it matter. Curiosity, art, empathy, and science all flow from this drive to understand and create significance. Judaism frames the search as participation in a larger story. Humans seek meaning by engaging with God's commandments, the covenant, and the ongoing moral narrative of the Jewish people. Life is a project of responsibility to repair the world, honor the past, and build a legacy. Even amidst doubt or suffering, the search for meaning is embedded in daily action and ethical choice. Christianity offers another dimension. Here, the search is relational. Humans seek God, not just knowledge or achievement. Life is a journey of aligning with divine purpose, and meaning is found in love, sacrifice, and redemption. The search is not merely intellectual or practical. It is spiritual, emotional, and eternal. Across all three perspectives, a profound truth emerges. Humans are not satisfied with simple survival. We are meaning-seeking creatures. Even when the answers seem elusive, even when suffering and death loom, we continue to ask, to explore, and to hope. This persistence suggests that the search itself is as important as the answer. Belief systems, whether atheistic, Jewish, or Christian, guide how we search. They provide frameworks, tools, and narratives that shape how we interpret experience. Yet none can fully contain the human impulse to question. Doubt, wonder, and curiosity are as fundamental to life as breath. The final question is not simply academic. It is personal. It asks us to confront our own lives. What do I value? What am I willing to stand for? What legacy will I leave? It invites reflection not only on beliefs but on actions, choices, and relationships. Perhaps the ultimate answer is humility. We may never fully know the reason for our existence, but in the search itself, in the courage to question, act, and connect, we discover what it means to be human. Know that we've explored the deepest questions of reality, God, morality, suffering, identity, and history. It's time to ask yourself, where do you stand? Not in debate, not in judgment, but in honest reflection. Are you searching for meaning in science, in tradition, or in faith? Or are you still unsure? And that's okay too. Your worldview shapes how you live, how you love, and how you see the world. It affects the choices you make, the communities you join, and the legacy you leave. But no belief system is complete without questioning. Truth grows when it is examined, challenged, and understood, not blindly accepted. So I want to hear from you. Comment below which worldview resonates with you, and why. Share your doubts, your insights, and your questions. Engage with others respectfully. Let's create a space where ideas meet curiosity, not conflict. If this video challenged your perspective, hit that like button. Subscribe to join a community that explores faith, reason, and history without fear. Turn on the bell to never miss a journey that could change the way you see the world and yourself. The search for truth doesn't end here. It begins anew with you.